Well, hello again, everyone. So, today I have another special guest for you. We have Rohanna here. Well, not here, unfortunately, but here with all of us. Um, and she's going to share about her experience with Dick and how it's affected her and, yeah, all the things. So, the floor is yours, Rohanna. Tell us a little bit about yourself, first and foremost.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me, Amanda. Thank you for honestly putting out this podcast. I wish I had a podcast like this back in the day when I moved out there. So, really excited to be here. I'm 30 years old. I live in Washington, about 30 minutes from Seattle. I grew up on Whidbey Island, homeschooled, married at 19, divorced at 21. I own a natural body care line with my mom. We ship everywhere. The name is Sweet Sisters Body Care. So definitely go check it out.
Give the website a plug.
Yes, please. We appreciate it. And so that's basically me.
I love it. So actually just one thing that I just thought of. So you were homeschooled all of your entire schooling?
I did a half
High school
semester.
too?
Yeah, a half semester of senior year, which was just hell because I was dating the guy I actually married, but I was in a class with like two of his exes. So that was fun.
How does one meet somebody to marry at 19 when they're homeschooled?
Right. Yeah. It's a pretty small town. So basically saw me, was like, hey, started dating.
You're perfect. That's awesome. That's great. Okay. And so you run the business with your mom, and you're just in the Pacific Northwest.
Yes.
Going on ferries and seeing orcas.
Yes, I was gonna say you have to come visit me. We're gonna go whale watching. Yeah.
All of the things.
Yes.
Okay. We will definitely do that because I need to see orcas in real life. I'm not really sure how I would react, but I have this weird thing with animals, like very scary animals, where like I feel like if I was in the same place as them, that they wouldn't kill me, that they would just get it.
Yeah.
And I think that if maybe next time someone says, "Well, what's your red flag, Amanda?" I'm gonna say, I'm pretty sure that I could pet a lion on the nose and kiss it and like do a boot or something.
They would just know.
They would know. They would
still do that.
Yeah. Okay. So when I first reached out to you, tell me about that when we first started talking.
Yeah. I was happy. But yeah, you had reached out, you had asked, I guess you kind of told me a little bit of your story. You kind of asked if you'd want to be on this podcast. At first, I guess I was a little standoffish. Mm-hmm. I always liked to keep like good blood with my exes, which is just absolutely ridiculous. But I like to not rustle the feathers kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the more I listened to your podcast, the more I got like, this man needs to be held accountable. He is, I'm so happy that you started this and that all these women are sharing and
it's kind of incredible because I think that a lot of people who weren't initially interested as they listen to the story, I think that it's what happens with the listeners, the people aren't related to the story, is also what happens with the people who are exes, and they're like, what you do is you sit there and you're like, oh my gosh, I went through the exact same thing and it's super scary. And I mean, I can't say for you, but like, is that kind of what happened? You're like, I remember that. Like those kind of things.
Yeah, totally. Like so much I could relate to. And also that I didn't even really know I was in a narcissist relationship. Like I just thought it was me. I thought, kind of just, it was a bad relationship. And just listening to you explain it, like actually taught me a lot too about the relationship I was in. So that
I
was
didn't know much about narcissism when I was with him. I had no idea. I mean, I knew that people would, people say, you're so narcissistic. And I thought that was a character attribute, not that it was like literally a diagnosis that somebody could be. And, speculation, don't know if that is what he is or not, but it's pretty like marks every box. So,
totally.
well, I'm glad that you decided to share. I know that your story, in the grand scheme of all the stories, isn't as violent, isn't as tumultuous, and for that, I think that you're lucky.
Yeah.
But I do think that seeing and the listeners hearing like this part of the story, like him being this way with you, is good, because it really shows like the full capacity of like what he's capable of.
Yeah.
Because he can be really bad, can try and strangle you and kill you. He could marry you, you know what I mean? Like, and then he be like how he is with you, which we're gonna find out. So, thank you. And again, I'm very grateful that you're here and that we've gotten to be such good friends over the past couple of months, because like you've been a very big support to me, and I really, really appreciate that.
Yeah. No, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. All right. So I'm gonna start with not the narrative yet, but what do you hope that the Dichotomy Diaries does for the listener? Or what do you hope is a goal of all of us sharing?
Yeah. I mean, I think all of our stories are a little bit the same, but also a little different too. And I was just young, and I kind of thought it was all me, my issues, and I didn't even realize that I was having these things happen to me. So kind of just bringing light to that it can look like this, and maybe you're going to take it all on yourself, that it's your issues. So yeah, just sharing my story that people possibly can relate to, and see that they're having the same things happen to them, and that it's not them. Because I feel like I just took on a lot of low self-esteem and just feeling bad and questioning why I was feeling bad. And we'll get into all that. But yeah, just to share my story, and hopefully it helps someone.
Hey, it's definitely going to help someone, because I got a message today actually that was like one of the sweetest reviews that I've gotten in a long time. And, there's been a few bad reviews since it was on the Apple Podcast main page, but it comes with the territory, so I don't really care that much. But the one that I got today, I was like, I felt so validated. I feel that every time I get one, but I think that there have been some reviews that have come in on like the back end part of it that have been like, oh my God, I just listened to Joanna's story, and like that's just so scary. So there will be reviews on your story and people feeling thankful that you got on and just were so open and vulnerable, which kind of leads me to my next question. I know we talked about before, like before we recording and everything, and you said that there was stuff that maybe you felt embarrassed about. Do you, I guess it's a yes or no question, then you can elaborate. Yes or no, do you think that when you feel embarrassed about something in your past, that it is something that you need to work on, and that it's one of those like like a teaching moment that sometimes we, I guess, like shy away from?
I think so. Probably.
Yeah. When I felt embarrassed about specific parts of this, or even about stuff that goes on in my daily life now, I realized that when I feel embarrassed about stuff, it's really the stuff that I need to share the most, because it weighs you down and you feel shame, and shame is one of the worst things to feel alone and on your own and have to deal with alone. So um I'm just glad that we all have an open forum where we can do that and get rid of that and just like clear the soul and like just all of those things, like, because yeah, it's naive, young, dumb, stupid,
Yeah.
33 and stupid like me, like it is what it is. But if you
True.
can't make fun of yourself and be like, ooh, I was dumb as fuck, then like why are we even like human? So
Yeah.
all right. How did you meet our lovely shared ex?
Through social media. I believe I had added him on Facebook, thought he was cute. And then he had messaged me, um, chatting about something about like, I'll send you your workout plan soon here, or something like that. Basically, just an I think, to talking to me. He probably did that with tons of other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we just got chatting. We were both really into the fitness world at the time. We were also both, or at least I was in a relationship at the time, and then he later on was. So we just had a really just friend relationship, chatted pretty surface level. He might have been chatting about some things, like who he was with, a relationship with and whatnot, but yeah, pretty surface level for quite a while before I actually met him.
Okay. And so you said he was talking with you about the person that he was dating. What kind of conversations would what did that consist of?
Yeah, probably just like what he should buy her, what kind of like roses, just kind of, boasting about what he was doing, super romantic, super in love with her. I can remember that, like just all about her, posting her on all social platforms, and I was all for it too. Like I was happy
So
for them.
you were like happy, and you're like, hey, you know what?
Yeah.
This is a handsome guy, but we have a shared interest, and like it's an admirable trait to like be, what should I get for my girl, right? That probably made him seem a little bit more attractive to you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. Um, okay, so quite a few months of that. And when did things change? How did you become not a friend?
Yeah, so I think it was just kind of a slow burn into it. Kind of hard to remember exactly, but I kind of recall both of us getting out of relationships. And then I was down in California visiting a friend. I had taken her car and went and visited him in one afternoon. I literally drove there, stayed there for like an hour, and drove back. So that was kind of a crazy meeting. But yeah, I maybe in that moment, I feel like slowly probably started like, calling like Angel and love bombing you kind of maybe slowly. It's it's funny. I don't really remember like how it became, but I think I was like totally like smitten over him. So it was probably a pretty easy transfer for him because he was probably aware of the situation.
Was you going out there and, like just day trip out there that far, was that your idea, or was that he wanted you to and you were like, yeah, I'll do it?
Probably both, but definitely him, like leading up to that. I can recall him saying, like, I'll fly out to see you or I'll come to Christmas, but like nothing ever actually happened.
Okay.
He was always like flying to Miami, and before that, flying to his girlfriends, and because I
Yeah.
don't believe she lived in Vegas at the time. So yeah, it was probably a mix. But I kind of feel like he probably was like, come and see me, and like hyped it up. So yeah.
And probably was like, it's not that bad of a
Yeah, it's
6 hour
not that
drive.
far. Yeah.
Not that far. The dude really thinks that 4 hours is like 30 minutes.
Oh
It's the
yeah.
most
We've
insane.
made that trip many times, and I'm like
Yeah.
always the driving one while he sleeps or something. So yeah.
Oh God. Well, at least it wasn't him gambling while driving and wouldn't let you drive, because that's what I
Yeah,
experienced.
no.
Like, can you stop doing 7 things at once, because you're really putting our lives at danger? But
Oh God.
okay. So you went out there, and what are your first impressions of Dick in the flesh?
Yes. So uh shorter than me. That was very aware. But I think we just kind of brushed off. I don't know. I'm 5'11" and a half, so he's definitely under that. But he met me with like a running to the car, like hug through the window kind of energy. Just
Yeah.
so they're present. I think all of us, dream of that kind of energy. We love when, someone's all about you. So I was met with that, which I guess I wasn't really used to. And so it felt really good. Then went up to his apartment, clean, kind of, not much in there. But I just thought he was kind of a guy that didn't have much.
A minimalist, not like I don't have anything, like I choose to live this way.
Exactly. It's always like his choice. Totally. Yeah.
Yes.
He plays that for sure. Yeah. That's a big thing.
Did he have any unique accessories?
Not that I can remember. Probably like a picture of his daughter by his bed. His laptop.
What about one that he was wearing?
Oh, I don't think so.
No, like the ankle bracelet.
I guess I missed that. That's funny. Yes.
No, I mean,
I'm not sure if I saw that.
This is that time, right? Like
yes, I probably knew, honestly, he might have gotten it off before I actually officially met him. When we were talking, yes. He had that while he was like training, working out. And I definitely probably asked him about it. And he had come straight out, told me that he had a strangling felony out and he had gone to jail for it. But just the way he came at it, like straightforward, nothing to hide, that it was an accident situation, that he wasn't doing that. And that, his crazy ex-girlfriend and her mom had basically
entrapped him.
Yes.
Essentially.
And I remember kind of being like, but
yeah. So he told you the same story, they were breaking up, trying to get his stuff back.
Yeah.
She's screaming.
He just covered her mouth.
Covered her mouth.
Yeah.
There was never, he's like, how could I choke somebody if my hands are over your mouth? Now you're not. Yeah. Okay. So that story's pretty consistent.
Yeah.
I say that's good to know, but I mean, it's like that. I hope someone someday hears this before they're at that conversation and is like, bullshit,
Right.
So,
yeah. That's why we're here.
Were you scared when you found that out about him?
I think I was more shocked. I wasn't like with him at the time. So I wasn't like in the same room. And I think he's just a smooth talker. Like he talked me right out of that shock into like, oh, shit happens kind of vibe.
And also at the same time, right, the person that you're with, when you're with them in present time is completely opposite from what you would envision someone who can strangle another person, right? So
totally.
It kind of, you in your own mind, I mean, I know I did. I was like,
right,
bullshit. It's not my person.
And even through our whole relationship, either he kind of learned his lesson or he was like a little gun shy with that. He never was violent at all, but almost to like where he'd walk away when he was angry a little bit, just to be safe.
So it was like fresh, because he didn't like. He didn't want to go back to jail.
Me, I guess.
Yeah, no, I mean, you got a scared of the law, cautious Dick, which is, I mean, he still is, but I think that he thinks now that it doesn't apply to him because he hasn't got caught for anything in a very long time. So, that probably kept you safe. And so that's
Yeah.
really good. And I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, no, I'm so happy that he had that, actually happen to him, and he got some like accountability.
Yeah, that's what I was saying to her. I mean, she was the first one really to hold him accountable. And I think that
Exactly, yes.
really did give me like, I was like, if she can do it,
Yeah,
I can do
I
it. I
know.
can do it.
Oh, that's
I know.
so, yeah, and that's why I'm here, because of you. So it's like, yeah.
I love it. I love it. So tell me a little bit more about what you knew about him in regards to um kind of just the main things that I've shared that came up in the beginning. So like of course I'll just recap that. So it's like religion was super important to him at that time. He really wanted kids and a family. Um he was all very very distant with his family, and I guess like work was always like it was what was he doing for work at that time? So those kind of topics.
Yeah. So religion, I kind of knew he was grew up Mormon, but he actually wasn't practicing anything, or he was, yeah, we didn't really talk about that much.
Okay.
And he didn't go anywhere for that or anything. So that was kind of like, oh, a little bit more of
Mhm.
like interesting topic just to hear in your guys' story. And that
Yeah.
might have been because I wasn't super religious.
Hmm.
So maybe he wasn't using that the same way he was
Hmm.
with you guys. Or maybe it was just a period of
That's so, you
time.
know what? That is perfect. That is perfect because I have always thought that he uses being Mormon as a way to kind of like set himself up here above other men because I don't know. Like,
Yeah, I see what
you know
you're
what I mean?
saying.
Like
Yeah, totally.
I'm Mormon and the whites of my eyes, they're super white because I don't drink or smoke or do any of these bad things and
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to heaven. But when it came to you, that super important part of him wasn't even really talked about or he wasn't even practicing.
Yeah, exactly. And it was more like the bodybuilding thing that got me. And he
Okay.
wasn't drinking
Okay.
or smoking because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was kind of the same thing, but like religion and bodybuilding, which is kind of
Yeah,
funny.
the gym was his church.
Yeah, and then yeah, his whole family, that was always kind of a weird. He had FaceTimed his mom a few times. I know he was like obsessed with seeing his dad, but they definitely did seem distant,
Hmm.
and just always a little bit awkward situation. But at the same time, he was very much a victim in his
Hmm.
stories, or just like, why doesn't my like family love me kind of energy. And of course I was just like all upset about it and
Hmm.
trying to, be there for him the best I could, which seems like that's what everyone else was doing too.
Yeah, I mean, nobody wants to hear that the person that says I love you to them doesn't hear that from their own family, you know? Did you ever get an opportunity to meet any of his family members or FaceTime with them or talk?
No, I think I might have said hi to his mom, and I know I was like Instagram or Facebook friends with her. But
Okay.
no, I never really spoke with her that I can remember. Maybe like a few messages here or there. And then I believe his dad came to town once or twice,
Hmm.
but Dick was very like, I'm going to go see him. Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to meet anyone. And that was kind of the same thing with his daughter and ex-wife
Hmm.
as well, too. They had FaceTimed a few times. And then he also saw her a few times too.
What was the story surrounding why he didn't have any, like a lot of access to his daughter, I guess?
Yeah, that his ex-wife basically had forced him to release, custody of her. Um, yeah, it's kind of blurry why exactly, but he was like distraught about it. He would like cry and like hold her photos all the time. And that was like a really big part of our relationship, and just that how much he loved his child. And I can definitely relate with you too, just that really like showed you what kind of man he was, and that he would be an amazing father in the future for, you know, children.
That somebody, the next person should have,
yeah,
right?
like that was such a huge part. Definitely pulled my heartstrings for sure.
How did you feel when because you said he was able to see her a few times? How did you feel when he would go and see her and you weren't involved in that?
Yeah, I guess like a few emotions. Like at first I don't really expect to like meet the daughter, and but at the same time it did feel a little bit weird just because I wasn't part of it at all. Almost like they didn't know I existed, kind of.
Right.
But I know the ex-wife did know that I did. But yeah, it was just so weird. And I think just hearing like the actual story, it explains a lot too. But yeah, it was definitely just a like misunderstanding. Like he was totally painting a different picture, I guess. And so keeping you in the dark.
I mean, the painting the most different picture. I mean, the picture that he painted was somebody who would go to the end of the earth for his child. And the truth is he got mad if she spoke.
So
like,
shocking.
It just literally just like breaks my heart hearing that. And I'm like, ooh, it makes me feel even more protective over her and her mother and all of those things. So
yeah,
that's wild. Okay, so what year is this too, by the way? 2016?
Yeah, it's kind of in that like 2016,
okay,
2017.
Okay. And so you had came to visit him, you went back. What prompted you to say, you know what, I'm moving to Vegas?
Right. Probably maybe a mix of things. Just recently broke up with my past boyfriend. Probably wanted to get away. But also I think Dick really pushed it. It was, kind of you had to kind of vibes. Yeah, definitely. And just on the phone too, like constantly talking, wanting you there, saying that he's gonna like pay for everything, you don't need to work. And of course I was like, no, I want to work, but it's nice to not feel like rushed into finding something. So yeah, I believe it was him really pushing not being able to live without me.
I can't live without you. You're my soulmate.
Exactly. Yes.
Oh,
so
don't
yeah,
I know that old hook really gets you.
It does, yeah.
Okay, so you move out there, and talk like that was probably very exciting.
Yes, my mom actually drove down with me. We stopped off at my grandma's. He sent her a song. She cried. Totally
on like
on
FaceTime.
Oh yeah.
What do you remember? What song?
Oh my gosh, no. But there's only like a few that he really works. Something. Gosh, I never liked them very much. I'm not a huge musical person.
So. Oh yeah, was it like This Is the Moment?
Probably. Yeah, that sounds right.
That's literally like the one that he sings all the time.
Yeah, so
that was the first one he sang to me too.
Yeah, I was always like, oh, like, I don't know. I get awkward with people. I'm like, don't sing to me. But it's like adorable at the same time. So yeah, stopped off there. He was all upset for a little while that I actually took 3 days before seeing him. Finally got down to Vegas. My mom actually stayed 3 to 5 days longer at a hotel, and we got all settled in. And he basically in person ghosted me that night. He was at the gym.
The day that you moved to Las Vegas, when you arrived, he was not there.
The first night. Yeah. So, and
did you know where he was?
He said he was at the gym.
The whole night.
Yeah, it was like one of those 24-hour gyms, but
Yeah.
who really knows, honestly? Yeah, and so that was like the first night and kind of the baseline of our relationship.
The first red flag too, sounds
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, and just feeling so weird too, because this guy is like hyping you up. You basically like moved across country. Yeah. So
Well,
that
and your
was
mom is there, so I can
yeah.
imagine that like your mom wanted to come over to your place and help you get moved in.
Yes. I think, I mean, I didn't have that much stuff in my car.
Yeah.
And I kind of remember not telling her about that because it was just weird. And
It's embarrassing.
yeah, and I was
You
just
know
kind
what?
of like, okay. But I'm sure he worded it as like he was connecting with someone special, and so I should just understand. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, now hearing this again, I think that him doing something like that to you with your mom in the vicinity, I think actually is a test. I think that it's a test to see if you'll lie to your mom for him
Yeah.
and paint him to be uh, a good person regardless of the truth of the actions.
Yeah.
Which is a good gauge. I mean, if you think about it, if you put yourself in his situation, it's a good gauge to see, is this person like, can I manipulate her?
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, and she had already like my ex's mom had reached out to my mom about his strangling felony, and so we had already gone through all that together, and he had won her over then. So yeah, and it's funny just like listening. I think she said like, yeah, he seems like a really smart, kind man.
Yes. Isn't that so funny that they all say that though? My mom said that too.
Yeah, oh my God, when I heard like what he said to your mom, like the first time meeting her, I was like,
just fucking do it. Can
in
you
the chest
imagine?
pumping. So
Yeah,
funny when
like
you guys were talking about that. I was laughing my ass off. He used to do that in the gym, and like everyone would stare. Just like,
I hate that so much because I'm probably like you with like the singing thing where it's like don't bring uninvited
right
attention.
attention. He loved
Because
that.
also like if he would sing or if it's this, what am I doing? Nothing.
Right.
But people are
You're just
looking
like,
at me and it's
not with
not.
him.
It's
Yeah,
yeah.
that was so funny. Yeah, he loved to do that. And then you get used to it and you're like, he's happy. Like, he's in a good mood at least. Like,
Yeah,
usually.
it's a sign. It's a sign that your day's gonna
Right.
go
And you're
okay.
like,
Yeah. All
just
right, we
so
got a chest
funny.
bump. We're gonna have a good day.
Yeah. It's like,
Okay, so moving in with somebody that, you've been talking to for how many months would you say that like he's been in your life
yeah,
officially?
maybe 3.
Okay. So that's probably like you got to change, you're learning the way another person lives. So
Yeah.
how does Dick live? What's
Yeah.
his day-to-day routine
Yeah.
when
it's
you're
a
there?
Great question because it's very, yeah, very particular. Like up early. It needs to be like positive. It's usually going to the gym by like 10. Yeah, just basically the same every day. And I kind of like that, just being in the bodybuilding world at the time. That was kind of normal.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was interesting. And sometimes, I mean, most of the time I go to the gym with him, but then it kind of started changing to where he would just go to the gym. And also like the entire time that he was telling me to come out and move in with him, he was saying like, we're going to spend all this time together. We're going to do all these things together, like soulmate vibes. And it was not like that. Like instantly he was like, I need space. Go find something to do. And I can relate with your story, just like driving around, like feeling so alone and lost, and you have no friends out there. I eventually made some friends, but it was, a trip of like how he just switched and how he was even when I wasn't there, just texting all lovey-dovey, and then when you're there, it's instantly like glued to his phone, glued to his laptop, ignoring you, annoyed by you, and needing space constantly.
Was there anything out of the ordinary or that raised like an eyebrow about his work, right? Or like, was he sneaky? Because I feel like the sneakiness comes on very early after everybody moves in with him.
Yes. And it kind of, it's definitely sneaky. It kind of comes off as like private. So you're like, maybe he's just, a private guy. I thought it was all just online coaching, which is just hysterical now. And he would get like some phone calls and he would just take it outside, like on the back porch or something. So he basically just wouldn't let me listen. And I thought that was a little bit weird, but at the same time, I understand like privacy, and we were still pretty new. But I guess I didn't really dig much further than that. So,
I think that's a positive attribute of you. It's like, hey, you're a trusting person, and nothing at this point for you was really something that you're like, I need to go on the balcony or put my ear to the door. Like, you weren't feeling that. And so, in that moment, you were still happy with what was going on, even though maybe it wasn't exactly what you expected. It's still, you were where you wanted to be. He's a handsome man. For the most part, he's treating you good.
Yeah.
So he said that you didn't have to work.
Yes, but that really changed pretty soon into me moving there. Basically, like, where's that's just, half of rent. And that was like, so I kind of jumped into online coaching as well because that's something I knew how to do. And so that's how I basically paid my bills for the first couple months. And then eventually I got a restaurant job, a server's job.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I was working basically the whole time. And we were basically 50-50 on everything. And that's just how it was.
Consistently, like there wasn't a time where you would have your money and he didn't. He always had his stuff.
Yes, pretty much. There would be like times where he was like extra stressed and working like crazy or something like that. But he always came up with his side, and I covered mine. And so,
Thank God you didn't have to deal with any of that, dude.
I know.
That is some of the worst. That is like, there's nothing worse than like you being like, wait, you told me I didn't have to pay. Now I have to. And then you don't even have yours. So now I have to pay it all. How did I get this? How did that?
Yeah, I can't imagine. But I have been in past relationships that were a little bit like that. Not to that degree at all, but I had to cover some stuff, and I can't imagine that. Would, So pretty lucky.
It's a trip, but hey, we get through it, right?
And pretty soon on too, with the whole location thing, he had his location shared, and I pretty early on I found out about his gambling, and his gas station gambling, actually 5 minutes away from her house.
That is
so crazy.
Honestly, do you know how it's such a degenerate thing to me to gamble in a gas station?
Yeah, that's not how I picture it at all. I always think like fancy casinos and, a suit and just having time of your life. But that was not
like Monte Carlo vibes. Not like hey, put 20 on 6.
Yeah, and he would lose thousands there. Like,
you know why he says that he gambles or gambled at gas stations? He said that the odds of winning are significantly higher because of the lower amount of people who go in there. And here's me, who's like not a statistician, not at all good at math, but I'm like, I don't know. Feel like maybe the people who put the slots there would calibrate it to like the actual number of people and not just throw like a Bellagio slot into the,
right.
Whatever the gas stations are called out there.
Yeah. Such a trip. Yeah. And it, even when, as far as him giving all his money to me. Like I would just hold 10,000, 15,000 in my bank for him, but somehow he'd get it. So I don't know how that happened. So it didn't really work, but
Well, you know just as well as I do that he's the most manipulative person in the whole entire world.
yeah, he probably
I
said it was for
I
something
can't
else.
actually. It almost seems like unbelievable, but I know you're not lying, that he would give somebody his money because like I was his wife and we needed it to pay our mutual bills. I was like, please give me that 40,000. Please. My
Oh,
mom was like, give it to me, please. I'll save it. You
yeah.
guys need to buy a house. You need to do this, right? And he'd be like, nope, nope, nope. 5 minutes later, legit.
Yeah, I would
All
have
gone.
lost it. I know. And I know when you're like talking about that and that you're just kind of like numb to it, but you're like,
Well,
ah, but
there's
like,
literally nothing that you can
no,
do about someone else's gambling addiction. And I
no.
think that's where I was really naive and ignorant because I I was like, well, it's not a
Yeah,
drug addiction. It's not going to
yeah.
kill him. And the
You
truth of
can't
the
change
matter is,
someone.
I truly think it's one of those addictions that is almost like the worst one because you don't need to be in the presence of someone shooting heroin to feel like you need to gamble. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
there's triggers, but triggers happen inside your brain. It's
yeah,
not external really. So it's like you can he could he traded stocks. That was a version of gambling for him. He did life insurance. That was gambling for him. His
hmm,
risky, high risk, high reward online behavior is a way of gambling for him.
yeah,
And there's no area in his life that I think, and cheating, and you know what I mean? Like having speaking to multiple people, it's like, hey, this might really fucking crap out on me, but
yeah.
if it
It's a
doesn't,
gamble.
then I get what I want.
Yeah, yeah.
So, okay, so you knew that, like kind of the extent of the win-loss because he would give you money to maybe he was like at this time trying to quit or like
Yeah, and I think more he wasn't making maybe as much or he wasn't gambling as much to
Mhm,
make it, so it wasn't quite as big um amounts of money. I would have
mhm,
lost it.
yeah.
Yeah, so smaller, like 6,000 lost and gained back and kind of repeated like that. Yeah. But
Whew.
yeah,
I would love to win
thankfully,
$7,000, dude. I would love it right now, especially.
right. I know we need to gamble.
It would do some things for my mental health, probably.
I
Was
know,
there
I
ever a
know.
time that he gambled money, like, or took your money from you, or
No. So thankfully, I never, yeah, experienced that. I think once he gambled our rent away and mine was in there. But
yeah.
like basically the next day he had it. Um, yeah. So thankfully, he actually didn't
Well,
take anything from me other than my peace of mind.
your time, yeah.
Time, yeah.
Uh,
I know. And I was telling my mom too. I'm like, I think my story is a little bit like a little more lighthearted, a little more like what the fuck funny because
yeah,
I was going into the relationship a little bit different. I mean, I definitely had its like moments for sure
yeah.
because he was totally love bombing. Um, but I think I was just kind of like, well, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, I'll just move home kind of vibe. So
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
carefree. I think when
yeah, a
when
little bit for sure. So
hey, if you can be carefree when you're young, I think that that's like a really, really great
yeah,
thing. Like I feel like I never had an opportunity to be super carefree, maybe a little bit in Scottsdale, but that all ended when I met him because I took on all of his worry too.
right. Yeah.
So stupid.
It's
Um, okay. So because you guys share this like love for working out, um, did like I would assume that you said that you were working out together initially and then he kind of stopped and you guys were going separately,
hmm
but you were like, hey, that's his time. Is that
yeah. I mean, he was huge into like needing space,
uh-huh.
just like total red flag.
After he
Now that
begged you to be there though,
yeah,
to be
like no,
clear.
yeah, no one needs that much space, or you shouldn't be in a
Uh-huh.
relationship. So yeah, I think I was just I definitely felt lonely and alone and all
Hmm.
those emotions. But yeah,
How were his eating habits? Did you guys like did you guys eat healthy?
yeah, for the most part, and he did too, which was kind of funny, like listening to other people's stories. For the most part, the first time I think I was at his apartment, all he had was French fries and creamer, coffee creamer in his fridge, and I was like,
Like leftover French fries?
no, like a huge bag in the freezer, just like a massive amount, which is funny because I love French fries now, but it was just like murderous. Like it was weird. I
You're
was
like,
like,
wait, what?
okay, you need to get some food. But yeah, I can remember for the most part healthy chicken and rice kind of meals, but then also like burgers. Like once he like I feel like on one of our first dates he took me to Twin Peaks.
Hmm.
It was like
It's actually really funny.
uh, yeah, I mean because of sports, right, or something,
Yeah,
but
for
I was
sure.
just
Like all of the sports.
yeah, I was just like I felt so like uncomfortable, but it was his spot, so he loved his burgers. So yeah, like he never really worked that hard, and I think
Mhm.
you touched on that too. Like
Yeah, I think
he would,
Joanna said that. I think she was talking
yeah,
about because like
do all the shit.
he didn't have to.
Yeah, yeah, and he would like prep for like a couple weeks and then do a show and not place well, and then get back to eating, burgers again. But yeah, I think it was kind of, steroids use. He does work
Mhm.
out and then just like not that many meals he kind of maintained, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah, it's funny
I guess
looking
that
back.
combination makes if you're on steroids, you're working out regularly, but maybe not as hard as someone who was, like super about that life, that
Yeah.
you're still probably going to look significantly better than the average human, which is, I
Yeah.
think, the goal.
And he's there all the time, like
Yeah.
7 hours, 6 hours, 4 hours. Like he does work out in those times, but then there's like sauna and chill and like doing
Oh
other
God, the
stuff.
sauna,
But
the spiritual moments in the
oh
sauna.
yeah, I know that one hooked you, right?
Oh
So
God.
funny.
I ended
Yeah.
up getting married 2 years later. No, 1 year later after that. That was the
Yeah.
one for me.
I know, but he's
Uh,
good. Yeah. Mm.
you know what I realized? I realized that the gym is it's like him going to work every day. Like when we think of going to the gym, it's something that we have to take a break from work to go and do
Hmm.
maybe, and then we come back to normal life. But him going there is a time where he doesn't have anybody looking over his shoulder and he can do whatever he wants on his phone and he
Totally.
can meet anybody there and we don't know about it.
Yeah, it kind of
Um,
holds everything together and
mhm.
like how his body is so that he can get
Yeah,
attention
but
from
it's a
certain
good
people.
front because you can't really tell somebody who's a competing bodybuilder they can't go to the gym. So it's like it's a pretty good lock for him.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is.
So what were you planning on doing like with fitness and like, he's all about that. You guys connected on that. Is he supportive of your
Yeah.
goals
Yeah.
and helping you and
Yeah. So we definitely did share that. When I moved, he kind of was getting out of it, at least the competing side, which was kind of a bummer for me. I was like, oh man, like that's kind
you're
of,
like, I want to start this right now. And
yeah, I was
yeah.
at the beginning of it and he was kind of at the end of it. But we, lived that fitness lifestyle anyways. So
Mhm.
yeah, just gym, meeting space. Yeah, that was good times. I remember
Did
just,
you
yeah.
it's funny because when I'm listening to these stories, I kind of always forget to ask about like other people in this time. And it's weird because I think I'm so conditioned to just being alone with him that that thought really doesn't like besides family, which is, we've talked about already. I didn't really know that many people in his life. And so did you meet a lot of friends or
No, but he claimed to have a lot of them.
yeah.
I
He's
definitely
the
met,
mayor of Las Vegas. That's what he
yeah,
says.
yeah, Yeah, I think I met like one or two, and they were kind of awkward, just like his family. Like there was a secret, no one, like I didn't know, I was missing something, kind of. But he did have a few friends, like a professional casino player, gambler, that actually stayed in our living room for a while. So he was friends with him, but he'd also talk a lot of shit about him. It's kind
the
of
most amount of shit about
like normal thing for anyone. And then he also met Matt. Yep, his workout partner he used and trained. I just thought it was a, fitness partnership. But I kind of knew he was like wealthy, and that's why Dick was, holding him so close, and still does to this day, honestly.
And you knew that he was gay?
Yes, that was pretty obvious.
It's so funny that you say that, because truthfully, I'm not exaggerating or anything. I had no idea that Matt was gay.
Well, yeah.
And I think it's because I find him horribly unattractive. And I always think of, like, when I think of a gay guy, maybe it's stereotypical, but I have handsome gay uncles.
I know. I want to be like every gay guy's best friend.
Yeah, like, I'm
come
like,
on, guys.
Yeah, they all have to look like the people on Vanderpump Rules, or they're not,
Yeah, and he's definitely not. He's dorky, kind of awkward.
and kind of antisocial, whereas I would always been thinking, like, and didn't really want to talk to me or get to know me. Like, remember how I had said that he gave off like a misogynistic, like, women-hating vibes?
Yes, I felt that too.
The most, like, not gay thing that I've experienced. So that
true.
was... So you did feel that too?
Yeah, I definitely did. A little bit of like jealousy almost.
Yeah.
But also like acceptance that I was Dick's girlfriend.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, interesting. And also throughout this entire time, he didn't share me like on social media or really with anyone other than like his friends or like in-person meetings. He usually would say like, "This is my girlfriend."
And so after him being with the most immediate past ex, who he did share a lot of, that was kind of an expectation on your part, was that you're going to get in the relationship with this person and they're going to be proud of you. So what was...
Or at least that was like what he did with all his people. And then it was definitely, that was definitely a tough thing to deal with. Just basically begging someone to share you and then slowly just like shoving it off and putting it underneath, like, it doesn't matter, like, we're good, so why does it matter if like social media needs to know, social media ruins good things, like, you're just telling yourself all these lies. And I think he just wanted to have his options open, for sure.
100% wants to have his options open, but paints it in a way. I mean, you inherently don't tell yourself that it's okay. He plants that it's okay in your brain.
Yeah,
and
totally.
I remember feeling that way, because I remember at the very beginning he was very much proud and posting, and that hooked me, because I was like, "Ooh, I like this," because I had shared with him in the past that I had a lot of exes that didn't share me, and it really bothered me. And so that was one of the first things that he did, So I can imagine that didn't feel good.
And it really made you have like low self-esteem. And just like question your worth too, which is just an awful thing to do to someone.
The thought of, am I good enough for the person that you like live with? It's like that should never be a thing.
And someone that claims to love you, wants to have kids with you and kind of stuff. But you just keep telling yourself, it doesn't matter, And it's such a weird thing.
Because it doesn't matter, because you almost make yourself the bad person in that situation, where you're like, am I too superficial?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And like, why am I fighting you on this so much?
I don't need... like, maybe I do care about... You start questioning, like, if what he's saying is the truth. Maybe I do put too much value on social media. And maybe I really need to be more present and unplug and all that stuff, when it's like he literally has 2 phones in his hand at all times. So it's like, come on, dude. Yeah. That's wild. Okay. So what happens next?
Yeah. So pretty soon into me moving there in our relationship, one day he just rolls over and is like, "Will you leave? Like, I want to
Middle of
break
the
up with
night?
you." No, like just in the middle of the day. Probably like after we had a great morning or something, like super random, out of the blue. Just like,
Yeah.
"Will you leave? I don't want to be with you anymore." And it was just like shocking. And I just moved there basically. And I remember just like crying and just so upset. And then he was like, "I don't actually want that," kind of like backtracking a little bit, which is even more confusing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And yeah, we basically just like swept that under the rug and moved on from that. And he did that a few times, just like, "We're just friends. There's no like passion." And I think starting out as friends, that was a little bit confusing just to go back to that. Like maybe he never, did care for me that way. But at the same time, just like love bombing you with
Well,
a
I mean, you
soulmate
literally
and
see, like, even in this, an hour and 2 minutes that we've been talking about this, right? It's sometimes difficult to remember like how you got to a certain place because
yeah,
of how they made you feel, like in what we're talking about now. And it's like you said, when I'm like, when did you move there, or what made you move there? And you were like, he's like, "You're my soulmate, I can't live without you."
yeah,
So
yeah,
but then what how many months later is he being like, "Leave, we're just friends"? And is
yeah,
that
not very long after, which is just like,
that's his version, or that's, I mean, this is what he did with you. The version with me was I got bait and switched, when, you know what I mean? And
yeah,
that's,
and
it's
it's all
this
on
it's
you.
this build up, build up, build up, build up, tear
Mhm.
down.
Yeah,
And then once you tear, because once you're tore down, he controls you. So, okay. Um, that's wild. I'm sorry you had to go through that, because that's really, really difficult. Did he ever abandon you? Did he ever leave without warning?
yeah, kind of at the end. And I think maybe he had been dating that other girl at the time. I just didn't know.
Mhm.
Um, just not coming home at night. Me staying up all night, looking at his location, going crazy. But not like leaving, but also I was in Vegas. So
Mhm.
that's like his place. So he's not
Yeah.
really gonna leave. But I
Hey,
can
you wanna know
imagine.
something? That's why I was okay with going there, because I was like, if we go there,
Yeah.
you have nowhere to run away to.
Right. Yeah.
God, I
He's
was
gonna,
so
but
wrong.
then, yeah, he's just gonna say, "You leave." Yeah.
Yeah. Or go to Hawaii, me with a sugar
Right.
dad. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So
wow.
a little bit, but not too bad. But yeah, I was kind of going crazy a little bit at the end.
Mhm.
Just like, we need to talk, like this is not gonna work, kind of thing. Yeah. And then he joined the cult, as I like to say it. But you want to be respectful, because I do know other people were in it and they're not
Mm.
entirely sure what actually
Yeah, so
happened.
just so to kind of, because the listeners are gonna be like, "He was in a
Yes.
cult and he was Mormon? This guy's wild." Yes, you're right. But so he
Pyramids.
was part of a, how do I explain it? It's almost like the, like Tony Robbins or like the 10x Grant Cardone thing before them. But it was all about motivational leadership through healing of trauma and creating really, really strong friendships. So what was that like when he was in that? What was like, he was there every day, or
Yeah. So at first I was so supportive. Like, of course,
Mhm.
you're like, yes, bettering yourself, getting help, working through stuff.
Yeah.
And I can't really remember. I feel like it was a few days in a row and they were long days.
Hmm.
Um, I can remember like 8 in the morning to like midnight. And I would pick him up too, from those days. And sometimes he would come home maybe on a shorter day or, the next day, and just be like so lovey-dovey and like just, like I want to marry you and have your babies and just so grateful. And then like the next day he would be distant and cold and just upset, and sometimes even like wanting to break up or not be with someone, or me,
Yeah.
or just confused. And it was it was hard to be with someone going through that, but at the same time you want to be like their support system.
Two
that was
questions that I have. So my first question is, did the ups and downs that you experienced, like, because that's a pretty rapid cycling, did that like make you think that there was any like mental health issues?
I think a few times, but not really like acknowledging that. Like, I think
Can you see me?
Yes.
It literally just said reconnecting, and I'm like, oh fuck. How can it like, what the fuck?
It's like blue or purple, but I didn't see anything on my end. Reconnecting. We're just gonna have like a
I swear to God, bro. Like, I can't.
You're gonna be like, this is Rose story.
Can you see me now?
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay.
Just gonna make sure I'm connected.
It's weird because it said that, because you know how I'm hardwired into the internet?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it said that the Wi-Fi was on, and I was like, that should not be that. Okay. So,
mental illness.
Yeah, so mental health issues. Did you think that there was any mental health issues?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe when he did his like blank stare thing, when he's trying to get out of stuff. But no, I don't think that really came to mind. But now, yeah.
You're like, now I am a professional licensed counselor and therapist. No.
Right.
And so with this leadership program schooling thing that he was in, did he ever talk about the things that he was working through, or maybe past trauma that he had experienced? Because what I know from that is that people who go through trauma go to this to get through it and break through on the other side and be they're making a choice to move past it.
Yeah. Not that I can remember. Probably like family stuff. But yeah, he was kind of he didn't tell me much about that, but that he needed to go and be here, and that it was really tough sometimes, and like crying all day and like yelling and screaming, but they were like working through it, and just a little bit violent too. Like, I can't really remember, but like the coaches and the people in charge just being very aggressive. But that could also have been like him saying that, what's really true at this point.
I think that it's a very aggressive pyramid scheme where like they 100% want to make sure that it's so funny because I was actually, when we took a break, I was going to go and get the book. I have the book from that, like the work binder.
Oh, wow.
And so I have all of the notes of what the exercises, right? And who's the most important person in your life, and what do you want for them, and all this stuff. And so they would make the people write down names and contact information of those people, and it's, let's just say it's Dick, right? They would say, Dick, who are the top 20 most important people in your life? Put them in your phone log so you have it forever because it's important. But the actual thing was that they were collecting that information so that they could potentially become members.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Total pyramid scheme. I think during this time, if my brain serves me, is that he was writing.
Yes, if I can remember correctly, yes, he was writing his life story. And all his traumas and just everything. Yeah,
and part of what I don't want to be too detailed about it because it's not my trauma, so I'm not going to talk about it.
Yeah.
But it's important for the listeners to know that during this specific time that he was alluding that he had been abused as a child. I don't
By his
remember if it
mother.
was sexual abuse, yeah, or you know, parents or church member or something, but that was it like he thought that he was?
Yeah, so like he just like blurted it out once when I was at the gym with my friend, like through text. um and yeah, I just felt like I like had to leave the gym and go, be with him kind of thing. And so yeah, something like that, like he feels like that's what he thinks or something, but not that it actually was. And it's such a touchy subject. You're like not
Because
gonna
you don't want to be like,
question.
I think you would fucking remember, dude. Because
Yeah, I
then
know.
you're an asshole because you're like not recognizing someone's possible trauma. But
Yeah.
I think that's something
Yeah.
that sticks with you. Um, okay, so during this time at Leadership 101, drinking the Kool-Aid, he starts to get distant.
Sometimes it's like very like
Okay.
flip-flop. So sometimes he's, lovey-dovey, sometimes he's super distant. Then eventually at the end, he like stops coming home at night.
Okay.
But there's no like big thing, honestly,
Yeah.
that I can like put my finger on. It was just kind of like a little bit distant, but also like good. And
Mm-hmm.
like our sex life is great. Like
Yeah, talk
it's
about that. Talk about that a little bit. So, um, Joanna mentioned that she thought that that he was a sex addict. Did you get sex addict vibes from him?
I didn't, other than like him messaging that one woman like I love you on her comments on one of her photos, and then
Yeah.
us like getting into it and him saying that he's confused like who he actually likes. And he also did that with his ex-wife a little bit. He would be like, I'm in love with her. And I don't know if she like knew anything, but like I was like, oh, like you don't know who you like,
Yeah.
but other than that, no. But looking back, kind of, I mean, I guess, right? Like he wasn't even
Yeah, I guess
sure
I
who he
don't
wanted to be with.
I guess I don't know like truly what the definition of someone who is a sex addict is, but
Yeah,
what
and
what I think of is that a sex addict is someone who is like driving around
I know.
with trying to pick up hookers and stuff. That's what I think of it as. But maybe
Yeah.
that's not, maybe it comes in different forms of needing to start new relationships or rekindle old flames. Maybe that's part of
Yeah. And
the
also
sex
like,
addiction.
yeah, a feeling, a rush of like talking to
Yeah.
someone, also having someone that doesn't know what's going on. I
Mm-hmm.
actually know this on a personal level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's not just driving around finding hookers, but that's what I thought
Yeah, it's
exactly too.
the
So
rush of the new thing, like this honeymoon stage
yeah,
possibility. Well,
yeah.
it actually makes sense though because he's addicted to gambling, and gambling is like
Mhm.
that big win. You're always searching for that big win, and if he
Yeah.
can't get that, perhaps
What's next? Yeah.
what's next, right? Like we have to supplement it from another place. Okay,
Yeah.
so um, what you a lot of sex daily?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like 2 to 5 times a day, kind of. So,
Fi- uh,
like, good.
No, so for me, I would say that 5 times a day is like a super healthy day,
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think that there's a
Same.
lot of people who are listening and they're like, 5 times a day. I don't
Yeah.
have sex 5 times in a month, like
I
there's
know.
people that they
And
don't have any.
yeah. And I also think that might not be like healthy. Like, then
It's,
the next day he's rolling over and saying, we move out? So,
oh yeah, because maybe it's a form of love bombing too.
yeah. Yeah. And maybe that's the sex addict thing.
Yeah,
I don't know.
dude,
But at
there's
this
just
point,
so
I'm
much
just like,
going on. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I don't trust it.
Um,
Yeah.
so here's a question for you because actually you're the first person that I get to talk to that had a similar sex life with him. What do you think about when people speculate on his sexuality not being straight heterosexual?
Yeah. I definitely am like, because I had a few friends be like, "Oh yeah, he's definitely gay," and I was like,
You're like,
he
pretty
likes the
sure I would
female
know.
body.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I never, and even in person too, I feel like he's much more um gay seeming online and just his
Totally.
voice
I agree with
sometimes.
that.
And I'm like, he's actually kind of a manly man sometimes, gets his beard growing out, like,
Hmm.
like when you're living with him,
Yeah.
it's definitely a different vibe. And like he also edits his photos and his teeth and everything, and that just adds to it, I think. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
There's
so
this.
I never got that other than him, like all his friends and anyone he hung out with was gay. But now I see that as kind of like he hangs out with who he can use, and that happens to be his girl. And yeah,
Yeah, that's
so
actually a really, really fucking good point. And also something that I didn't want to judge because I didn't want to be like,
yeah,
uh, I actually kind of thought it was endearing a little bit because I was like, here's this Mormon guy,
yeah,
and he's befriending all of these gay guys. And while I know that they probably want him around because he's handsome and buff, the fact that he's giving them the time of day and not like a
right.
complete homophobe is really
It's
great of him.
yeah, it's kind of sweet.
It's very sweet, only to then realize later, once he got more comfortable with me, that he's the most
Yeah,
homophobic person,
hateful. Yeah,
hateful against gay people. Um, I don't even think that I kind of elaborated on this, but when you were talking about Matt and him being a client, right? It was just only this past summer that I found out that Dick and Matt's relationship actually started when Matt hired Dick as an escort.
yeah,
And that, I mean, this is again someone who was at my wedding, someone who I cooked dinner for, someone who I spent a lot of time, like with. And that also was the person that I got a random text message one day, and I get a video of my husband and this person engage, like literally getting a blowjob from a man, and I'm like, oh, that's what I needed to just move on right there.
right. I can't imagine. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Once Dick let Matt spray tan him or like tan him completely naked, and I was like, that makes me feel uncomfortable. Like that's weird. And he was like, no, we're just buddies. It just felt weird. Like I definitely had those weird feelings. Just
Hmm.
something was a little off. But he definitely played it as just like they want me, but I'm not into that, and maybe he's not, but you kind of
Yeah.
have to be. I don't know. You have to be something to
they
do that.
they want me, I'm just not into that, but I let them see my dick.
Yeah, and yeah, it's just weird, and
I actually
even
do, now that you say that, I remember, because obviously, like during my time with him, like he was very openly camming. And so he was constantly online. Even if he had run away, I could see him because he can't go a day without being live. And I remember specifically him being in Matt's house after he had run away one time, and he's full blown naked, standing up in front of the camera. And I know the bedroom. I've stayed in the bedroom. I lived there for a moment, and I hear him talking, and I'm like, he's literally right there off camera. Well, he's like, like jerking off and all this stuff, and I was like, that's weird. Like I would not do that with anybody in the
yeah,
room.
it's like too close. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
But
it's just
hey,
right.
now we
Yeah,
know the truth. I don't know. I just kind of always thought that like if he was going to do something with a man, that it would be like super, super hot gay guy.
right. I know. I know. I
It's
feel like that's what
that
I
was a
brought
little
face.
disappointing for me. I honestly, I mean, the whole thing was disappointing for me. But I was like, at least if you're gonna fucking do that, like do it with someone who's is handsome. But like,
Right.
no, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You should see all the clients.
But just for yeah, at the end there, when we were kind of like rocky but still together, he invited me over to this his friend's penthouse that he was like house sitting. He didn't really say that though. He was just there. And like, I
Mhm.
wasn't supposed to ask. And we went up there and he was literally like wearing this man's like robe and slippers and like walking around like he owned the place. And that's kind of how he like acts like
Yeah.
this is my life. But at the same time, you're like, you're still in someone's like house. Like, why are you here? What are you doing? He like brought me up there all like romantic, like on a date. But the entire time I felt like this is so weird.
Did you never thought to like, I need to find out who lives here?
No, I think I just kind of tried to like avoid things. Like I just didn't
Hey,
want to know. Like I knew, so I just didn't
I
want to find
think
out.
that that is,
Yeah, it was
well, like
like
maybe for the
turning a blind
story and
eye.
for the details and the context of like the podcasting, right? Like maybe that's not super great, but for your mental health, I think
Yeah,
that
probably saved me.
it definitely saved you because can you imagine if you caught on to things like I did and like
Yeah,
and if you were the kind of person who was zooming in and looking at the locations like I know that I for sure was, you would probably definitely be the person who would go through pockets of jackets and weird
yeah,
penthouses, you know?
yeah,
So
yeah, definitely. And I love your story too, just like how kind you were and supportive. It just like goes to show who you are, I guess. And
I just think that we all really tried to see the good in him because
yeah,
I think that maybe something that we all have worked on, but during that time really needed to work on was judging somebody or only seeing someone's potential and their goals as who they are, as opposed to what their actions and what they're
yeah,
showing us.
and he was really good at like pretending to care for you.
Yeah.
Um,
In
he did
multiple
that
ways,
strong.
including, right? Like, did you guys have a goal board?
Oh yeah,
Did you,
most
so
yeah,
did, was it split? Was it like we have our goals, his goals, and my goals?
yeah. I think so. That kind of sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Um, I kind of remember like mine being stressful, like pushing you, but like
Yeah.
you were like thankful.
I remember the second or third time that we sat down together in his apartment and I had seen his goal board and I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like I don't have one of those. And he's like, well, let's write yours down. And so we're sitting in his bed and he gets out a notebook and he's like, all right, what's your goal? And I'm like, to lose weight. And he goes, no, wrong. Be more specific. And I
Oh my
go,
God, yes, he would do that to me,
right?
and
Be
yeah,
more specific.
almost to where I would be crying, like I don't want, like I don't know, and he'd like yell at me,
Yeah, like
and
if
it
you don't
was
know,
yeah,
then it's not your goal and it's not
yeah,
important. Yeah.
yeah, that was awful. I
And
did
then
not like
naturally,
that.
because everything was always about weight for me, if it was in that period of time,
Yeah,
he was, and I would be like, well, what do you think I should lose? And then
yeah.
he would say something and it would be so hurtful. And I was like,
Oh, he put like a number to it
yeah,
instead of like lose weight. You needed to say how much.
right. Because during that time, I was I was definitely bigger. But I wasn't the biggest that I was at. But I know my mental health is the kind of, people who don't go on scales because the numbers mess them
Yeah,
up. They just go by
totally.
how their clothes feel. And so
Yeah,
I figured out that that actually works for me and I go by how I feel in my
yeah.
clothes.
I'm even like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
he wanted me to step on a scale so bad,
Oh,
so bad. And I wouldn't do it. I
good.
eventually did it and it fucked me up, but I didn't do it for a long time. But yeah,
That is so like disrespectful, not like hearing that that doesn't help you.
like my
And there's so
boundaries.
many other ways that you can,
Yeah, like you
track
could
that.
measure me. You could measure. I'm fine with measuring because I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to be doing.
Measure, pictures,
Yeah,
clothes.
yeah.
Like it doesn't actually matter what weight, it's what you feel, good in. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and also like him is always trying to gain weight. Like guys are the complete opposite,
I
it's
know.
like trying to be as heavy as possible.
It makes you so resentful. It really does make you so resentful. And I mean, even in like Joanna's case, right, where she was talking about like he would give her fucking, an egg whites
Oh
and
my
2
God. If
blueberries.
he had done that, like he might have kind of, but I was like for it because I was like competing. So it was like a good thing.
Yeah.
But if he had like said, you're having a salad, lost it. Yeah, no.
Yeah, no fucking way.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Where are we?
what was I gonna ask? Oh, so with the leadership program and the people in the leadership program, one, did you get to meet any of them? And two, like did that end when you guys were still together, or what was that like?
Yeah, so I met a few of like the sponsors or his coaches, the top people that and yeah, they were really sweet. There's like a community built, and I just thought that was great, though I did feel really outside the circle.
Yeah.
And that was a little bit hard, but I was just trying to be supportive, and he definitely made me feel bad and also like wanted me to join really badly.
But it
And
costs
he
money,
actually,
right?
yeah, it's like 3,000 or something.
Very expensive,
like, yeah. And he even had like Matt pay for it up front, and then I was gonna like pay him back, and I was like about to sign papers. I'm like, I don't know how I got out of that one, but
it's the most dick thing of all time, having Matt
right, you're
pay
just
for
like in
something
this
that will
room
make him look good.
about to sign your life off. Yeah. So I think it did end, but he was still very much involved.
Yeah.
And that's actually how it kind of officially ended. I was off visiting my grandma, driving there to Nevada City, California, and I got an anonymous email saying that your boyfriend is in a relationship, he's cheating on you, he has a new girlfriend, and she's in this I think she was actually going through it, and he had finished, so maybe he had recruited her, or maybe he just met her in it. And so I called him up, and I was like trying to make him, confirm, and he wasn't. He was trying, dodging it, and then eventually he was like, yeah. But it was weird, like he still wanted to like be in a relationship or something like that, and I was just like, no, I'm done. So I broke it off there and stayed with my grandma for a bit, and then I went actually home to my parents for a few days, and then eventually back to Vegas just to get my things, but ended up staying there for about 3 months with a friend, kind of figuring out what I was doing. But yeah, she and I went to go get my stuff probably a couple weeks after when I was back, and he was, pretty chill about it. Like, yeah, come in, grab your stuff. I won't be home. And when I walked in, there was like roses everywhere, and our goal board was like, I love you. Just all love. Dovey, her stuff was everywhere, with my stuff being everywhere too, like in the closet, and so I was just like,
it's going to be fantastic to hear
I
what
know.
he told her about
I know.
why your stuff was there. I think.
Yeah, like who was I?
Yeah. Like, who were you in this story?
Yeah, at the time you're like, this girl's stealing my man, and like she totally knows about me, but like of course she didn't.
No, of course not. Truthfully, as I've talked to everybody, nobody knew about anybody.
Yeah, I know. And I wish I had thought that. Right? Like, I wish I'd reached out, like, hey, I'm the last girlfriend, my stuff's still here, I see your stuff. Like, but we don't do that. We're like, upset with the guy.
Somewhere along the line in all of our lives, somebody told us that it's keeping the peace is what's best. And it's not. And that's literally why we're here.
Yeah.
Because when you keep the peace, like it keeps the peace for who? Because it's still in here. It keeps the peace for his
life.
You know?
Yes, 100 exactly. Yeah. And that is why we're here. Yeah. Because and I've always felt kind of like unsettled with that. Like I just swept it under the bridge. Like we're still friends, but like he cheated on me. Like oh well, and then just like hearing your story and the other girls too. It's just like this, it needs to be
I think
spoken about.
I think, I know that he really villainized all of, not all of, but about three of his exes, ex-wife, ex-fiance, and Joanna. And what he would kind of always say about you, he would say the friend thing. He would say that, but he would never say anything negative. But I always was kind of like with a grain of salt because I was like, did you do something wrong there that you're like, you know what I mean?
Right. Like you don't want to go into detail. Yeah.
Yeah. So like now hearing your story, and I remember when it was after we had started talking and you had started listening and everything, that he had reached out to you and he was like, how could you be possibly
Yeah.
following? And it's like, bro, do you think I'm not going to hear everything and like still believe you after
Right.
all of the stuff
Yeah.
you
And
did to
yeah,
me too? Like,
that was really, yeah, awakening just listening to your story and being like, oh, I went through that. Oh, that wasn't okay. Like, oh, and yeah. And I literally was like, I love her. And that was
I
it.
love,
I haven't
well,
heard from her.
I appreciate that because I think that there's,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
he has a very skewed sense of reality when it comes to who is the likable one between the two of us. And
Yeah. And
I,
yeah,
it's
honestly,
like,
like him just, yeah, speaking like, I don't know. I guess I would, yeah, jump on and see his social media here and there, and actually yours as well.
hmm
And of course, I wanted to reach out and be like, I guess I didn't know what to say really. Like,
hmm
yeah, he has these issues, but I feel like I knew what I would have done and would
yeah,
have been kind of like, yeah, blocked, sorry, like I'm not, taking that negativity.
yeah,
And I also saw like your sweet, like heartfelt posts,
yeah, I get that a
especially like
lot.
after your wedding. And then
Yeah.
going to his page and like nothing. And I was like, that was like psychopathy, honestly. I was like,
Mhm.
who gets married, this like beautiful woman, and not post it and not even like put it in your bio? I don't know. I was just
Well, you
like,
know what he used to do? He used to do it kind of as a like a punishment to me. Like if I um maybe if I was questioning him or like nagging him about obviously stuff he did wrong,
mhm.
if he would like remove one or like hide one picture, one post, and it was not like he hid all of them, but he would hide one of them. So like if I wasn't a, super photographic memory psycho, I maybe wouldn't have noticed, but I obviously did. And so then when I
Yeah.
would ask him, he would say something like, I don't know, I didn't remove it, and make me feel like I was crazy, like it was never there to begin with.
Oh my God.
Which
Yeah.
is
What
like
like mind play? Ugh,
it's gaslighting. It's like that's so crazy.
that's
Um
awful. Yeah. That always frustrated me. Didn't even know.
yeah.
Ugh. Yeah. I was just like,
Well,
yeah.
I think
So
that we all have the same characteristic where we want to see the best in everyone, right? Like I said, like we're not looking at them for their
totally.
actions, we're looking at them for their potential and who they could be. And while that's like a good attribute of a human, it also gets us in the most amount of trouble. So I can imagine that after, I mean, I even recently did this. After you're out of it and you're not being like actively like abused by him in some way or manipulated, that there's probably this question in your mind like maybe he did change this time. And if I reached out and he is truly changed and he's a good person now, I don't want to ruin it for this girl. Like
Yeah.
like I felt like that
Yeah.
with the girl that he was living with in Colorado because I was like, maybe
Yeah.
he finally learned. And I don't want to ruin it because I don't want him to be miserable, but I also don't want to like make somebody feel the way that I did.
Yeah,
And
I
I,
definitely felt that with you. And like
yeah,
that he married you too. I thought that
yeah.
was like huge. Like, oh, maybe he's
Yeah, right.
like,
Like that's like one of those signs where it's like
yeah,
that's different from everybody else. And that's how I was thinking. Like, I'm different. I'm different. I'm the
yeah,
longest
no,
relationship he's
totally.
ever had, you
Yeah,
know?
it was like true commitment, I
Yeah.
guess. But like with him, that doesn't mean anything. He's just getting married for religion or something. You're just like, what? Like,
Yeah, or just telling people that I forced you, like straight up
yeah,
gun to the head. You're gonna fucking marry me. It's like, it's not
no
how it went,
way.
but
Yeah. You're like, dude, this was your idea. Oh,
yeah.
killer. Yeah.
Well,
So, yeah, I mean, I can kind of wrap it up here. Um, a little bit. So I go home we don't really talk. He's doing his whole relationship. And somehow he's, sliding back in, talking to me, probably talking shit or something. Like, she's not what I thought she was or something. I honestly don't really remember. And I wonder if I like blocked it out too.
Yeah.
But somehow I fly back. That's why I'm always like, don't do it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, girl. No. But I flew back to Vegas to hang out with my friends, a girl, but end up having Dick pick me up, pissing off my friends because I'm letting like my psycho ex pick me up, right?
Right.
So she was like, well, screw you. Like, and then I have no place to stay. So I'm kind of like stuck with him. And just like a weird situation too, because I was angry. It was kind of like revengeful feeling. But at the same time, he was saying things too, I'm sure. Like, I know I wouldn't have been out there unless he was trying, get me back.
Probably also a little bit like you probably rationalized and made it seem like some sort of closure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And it was such an awful, like, awkward 4 days. Like, my friend was upset with me. I was in Matt's little mini mansion, not his dad's nice one, but like something on the golf course. And that's where Dick was staying at the time. But he also was like distant and weird, but also not at the same time because, he was probably with, he was with someone. And so it was just a weird, lonely, I was like left there with no car. And of course he's gone all day doing whatever he's doing.
So crazy, like Rapunzel in a castle, dude.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. And I remember I like posted something of me like working out, and maybe I was like wearing his sweatshirt or maybe just being in that space, and he freaked out on me, just like, someone's gonna see it and know you're here, and she did or something. And I just remember like bawling my eyes out in the bathroom. Like, I am never letting this man make me feel this way again. Because he had in the past where you're just like so upset and hurt. But this was like a different, like, you don't mean anything to him and you're not supposed to be here kind of thing. And
well,
that
I feel like when you go from the main person to like the other woman, there's really nothing that's worse than that.
Yeah. 100%. And it was just like one of those like ding, like never again. And yeah. So
and then you got away and you never looked back.
Yeah. We had like an awkward goodbye.
Yeah.
And I knew it was for good, and that was that. So flew away. And yeah.
Oh man.
So crazy. But here we are. Yeah. And then I met
Yeah, so that's what I was gonna say. So like where are we at now? So I feel like that everybody like kind of meets their person after him. That's kind of what it kind of has like played out to be. So you are in a relationship now, and you've been
6
for
years.
6 years. Okay.
Yeah.
And
he's a great guy.
Is your current boyfriend aware of like the totality of like everything that happened with Dick, as far as like manipulation and things that would affect your relationship?
I think a little bit, but I'm not sure if I've actually talked too much on it.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty like open. If something came up, I probably would have said something.
Right. Like, I feel this way because in the past like, this happened.
Yeah, and actually we had met before I'd flown back. And so he was actually in a relationship before, but he was, doing his own thing, and they had broken up, and the day I flew home, he had like sent me this long message about like being into me, and I just remember being like, I can't handle this. And then we actually were just like friends for a year or two.
Really?
But yeah, I think I always like, said like Dick made me like, I feel like I was just like a pissed off bikini athlete, and that like at the time attracted my current boyfriend, which is hilarious. So I'm like, everything happens for a reason. But I'm like, that was me, nothing to do with him. But so yeah, definitely in a better place. And yeah, I'm glad I just kind of slipped out of that one. It's just like a Sin City, crazy. And yeah, I definitely appreciate like peace of mind and coming home
Mm-hmm.
and like,
Yeah,
yeah.
I can imagine that also this, well, because of kind of what I went through and being there and being so alienated from every single person in my support and experiencing like an intense manipulation and coercion, really, right? And
Yeah.
abuse, that going home feels so fucking good. Like,
Yeah. And also just like dating someone that isn't whiplashing you with
oh,
emotions.
yeah. Yeah.
That's what nice too.
I
Yeah,
know. I'm still trying to figure out, like, right now, like, mentally, I'm like, I don't know, like, if
yeah,
someone was nice to me, if I would be like, ah,
yeah, it
why is
took
he
me a
nice?
while.
Yeah, I
Yeah, it
think that
took
it
me like a
probably
year
will take me a little
before.
bit of time, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
But,
And yeah,
I
yeah,
think that while your story, like we said, it isn't the craziest, there's definite, like, flags, maybe not, like, I mean, not coming home is definitely a red flag, but, like, there's not things where, like, it's like,
yeah,
thank God for you, because I'm really happy that you didn't get fucked up from this douchebag. But I think it's really important to see, like, the levels of what narcissistic abuse can be. And
yes.
I also think that when someone comes in and they play it off as like, you're my friend, I confide in you, I tell you everything,
Mm,
that's a different form of abuse, because you are like, even if we don't work out romantically, I do still want you as a friend, because you kind of brush off and give them a pass on the things that they did, like cheating. It's like, I'm your friend, so it's okay, you know? So,
100%.
yeah. And I
Yeah,
mean, I think that there's a lot of people out there that get friend zoned and they're like, why am I being friend zoned? Only to find out later the person's like, I love you. And then that's the back and forth.
totally.
So, just to give the listeners context, not that this obviously we go from one super trying to kill somebody extreme to, a little bit less, but I
Uh,
appreciate you sharing and staying up super late with me. And
oh,
yeah, and I just
yeah,
love our
no.
friendship. And
I know. I
it,
know. He's the best, yeah, the best thing he's ever given me is
yeah,
definitely our friendship, which is pretty
it's
cool. And
definitely
yeah,
would never say that I never thought during the hardest times when, like, I just truly didn't, like, not want to be alive, that I would ever say, like, this had to happen. And the other day, like, I literally said that to someone. I was like, no, this had to happen. And I'm not like a masochist sadist. I'm not happy that it happened, but in
yeah,
order for me to be the person that's sitting here right now, and with my desire to, like, help other people not ever feel the way you did or I did, I think that I would never be able to do that and make change and help other people if he hadn't been the most horrible person. So,
yeah. I know there's a light that comes out of these things. And I also want to mention just to trust your gut. That's
yeah.
a huge thing. I feel like we don't. Um, and yeah, if your gut is telling you anything, just stop and listen to it.
Hmm.
And yeah, that just seems really big in my life right now. Is like, don't turn off your gut. Don't not listen to it because someone else says not to. Like, really take that time to ask why you're feeling that way. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And to add to that too, when you think of, like, trusting your gut, people really, like, often, like, are they, like, think about their gut, right? And they think about a feeling that can sometimes mimic what butterflies feel like.
mm-hmm.
When you're walking into a social situation where you're like, ooh, I don't want to be here, like, just social unease, a lot of people around looking at you when you walk in. That feeling is very similar to butterflies. And I think that we
Yeah,
mistake the two a lot. And that's fucking crazy, because this is, oh my God, I'm so happy. And this is run for the hills as fast as you can.
yeah, and yeah, no, yeah, question it.
Yeah. If you feel
Yeah.
something, it's like if you see something, say something. So if you feel something, maybe take a step back and like,
Exactly. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Exactly.
Oh, well,
Yay.
I'm definitely going to come out and do some like sea panda watching with you.
Please. This
Yes.
summer.
Yes, it'll be super fun. So we'll do that. Kind of like I ended Joanna's too. Like, if I know that listeners will probably have questions, like they always have questions about every episode. So if they do, like I'll probably make a reel where then you can and tag you so you can answer back. So
Yes.
feel free to do so, like in video responses or commenting, whatever, however you want to go about it is great. But yeah, like thank you. And again, like I appreciate you like sharing and, going back in time to something that wasn't the most easy time for you, but I think that the work that we're doing is meant to be done.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me and also doing everything you do.
Thank you. Of course. Awesome. Well, we will chat. It's not over yet till you taste regret. It's not